Alright, welcome back everyone to another video, and in today's video we're going to be reviewing and going over episode 6 of The Last of Us Season 2. So to kick everything right off, this title is called The Price, and just to say the least, this is probably my favorite episode of the entire series. Being able to go back with Joel and Ellie and being able to spend time with these characters is something that I was looking forward to since we started off the season, and was really wondering on when we were going to get back to these characters and seeing the development between season 1 and season 2. Now, again, as someone who played the game and was able to see this influence from the game, it was handled very differently. It was not done the typical way that you would see in a TV show, and to see it play out between the game and the TV show, I do like the way the TV show's handling it and how they were able to do it in a condensed setting for TV. And it was, again, very different than what we see from the video game, because in the video game we were able to get time to breathe in between levels and getting to see and work with these characters and getting able to play as the characters in those scenes. So in the episode from the beginning, we see how it's going through the birthdays, and the birthdays are kind of connection point for Joel and Ellie, and actually, just to kick everything off, just to say, with the beginning of the episode, with us going back into Joel's backstory, is something we never got to see from the game. And to see how Joel and his relationship with Tommy and his father, and seeing how that dynamic played out as he got older, it really gives you a microscopic vision and to the psychology of how Joel works. Seeing how he's had this almost protective instinct in him, and that he's always had this sacrificial love for anyone that he comes close with. So in this case, he was protecting Tommy from his father because he knew how violent and how abusive his dad can be. And we see how Joel is that protective figure over him. So he tells, the father that, hey, I'm going to take the blame, and I'm going to be the one I was the one that caused Tommy to get in trouble, so he can take it. And we see the psychology of how Joel works and his character. Even in that, helps you understanding him in the game. So seeing that extra layer on him, it gives him a little bit more character development, which I really enjoyed from the show as a whole. And then going into it now with the sequences of the birthdays, I think that playing it out, going year by year, to see how Ellie's growing and to see how tumultuous the relationship started to strain, and how the relationship over time started to deteriorate. Getting to see that play out in the sequences of year by year is a great choice for the show, and it gives you a little bit more context as to, it was over time that we saw the relationship start to break apart, and how over time the relationship between Joel and Ellie started to be strained and started to break apart, because Ellie was becoming more and more aware of what happened back in Salt Lake City when Joel had saved her back in season 1. And so from the museum, that whole entire sequence was, top tier. It was excellent. All the Easter eggs that connect back to the game, the way that they were able to level out the scenes, even down to the actual scene in the rocket ship when they were doing the imagination sequence, when Ellie was making pretend that she was on the Apollo 15 and going up into space. That was legit shot by shot from the game, and getting to see that little moment and seeing the creativity of the creative team of The Last of Us being able to play out into the show, and just the overall scene itself was just perfect. And I think that they handled the source material well, and I think a lot of fans of The Last of Us can appreciate at least that, even though they might have their issues that are going on, just like how everyone has the issues with the game. I think that everyone can appreciate that they're keeping themselves close to the source material, and that Neil Druckmann and Craig Mazin, especially Craig Mazin being the creative director of the show, he knows where the show's come from. He knows that this show wouldn't be itself without the video game. And so that's a credit to him and Neil Druckmann, who's done this. Now, as we go on further into the season, and how we go, but further on into the episode, we see how we go on to the 16th birthday. And the 16th birthday with the museum. And then I forgot even the 15th birthday, where we finally got to see Joel play Future Days for Ellie, and him giving the guitar to Ellie as a gift. Again, I was waiting for that scene when the show started. I was thinking that because of the title of the first episode being Future Days, and then I was expecting them to do the whole entire sequence, and they subverted that expectation by doing something completely different. I think that was a creative choice, and I didn't know if I was going to like it, but seeing how they did it and handled it here, I thought it was really good the way that they did it. And then, and again, it just brought me back to when the opening sequences of playing the game back in 2020, when you got to experience and jump back into this world and seeing the dynamic between Ellie and Joel, and seeing how in the game their relationship was looking already strained, but then seeing it here how it wasn't strained, and actually Ellie still had that childlike innocence, even though she knew in that moment that Joel was possibly lying to her. And then, again, going back to the, Pedro Pascal playing Joel, it was just, anyone who had questions at the beginning, I think everyone can know that Joel, just as much as Troy Baker played Joel and voiced him in the game, Pedro Pascal is Joel. Like he played a perfect role for this. He absolutely knocked it out of the park with the Future Days scene. And then again with the museum scene as well. Like Pedro really was the focal point. And I know a lot of people have their issues because without Joel, what is the soul of The Last of Us? And again, that's full in fruition. I think that's probably why it's one of my favorite episodes. Like I said, I do have my problems with the second game, and I do have my problems with the second season so far. But overall, I think that this season was probably one of the best written episodes of the season. It was probably one of the best directed episodes of the season, just because of the fact that they were able to go back with Joel and Ellie. They were able to go back and know that, hey, this is the core of the show as a whole. It's about Joel and Ellie. It's about a father's love over a child, and that even though it's his, not his firstborn, and it's not even their blood, but it's just that connectivity to the two characters, and seeing how Joel has this protective instinct connecting back all the way to when he was a child. It just adds an extra layer of development for both Joel and even Ellie too. And so going into then, as we travel on into the later on, we jump to another year, and we see how Ellie is now 17, and she's now exploring and being a teenager, and we see the her expression with and relationship with, I'm forgetting the girl's name, but the girl who gives the tattoo, and we saw her in episode 1 too. We see how she's getting the tattoo, and then they were doing stupid stuff together. They were messing with each other, and at that whole scene, it's adding that the strain on the relationship. You're starting to see how they're starting to break apart. That it's not only the teenage rebellion in her, but it's also, hey, I know something, and I know that there's something darker that's going on between us two, and I know that it's straining our relationship, and it's starting to strain the view I have on you. And so we start to see how, hey, you're not my dad. This isn't your house. This isn't, this is our house. This is something that was given to us by the community. It's not yours. Because Joel has this fictitious reality in his head that this is his family, this is a relationship, because again, he has that protective instinct over him. So when we see that play out, you're seeing the emotion in Pedro, and you're starting to see the breakdown of the character. And like I said, Pedro is such a good facial actor, and as well as an emotional actor, that you could see and you could feel, even though it's a fictitious character, I could feel the pain, I could feel the emotion, I could feel the dread and the weariness of Joel. Like, I've lost everything, and in losing everything, the one thing that I do have, that I do love, like a daughter now, I'm also losing her too. And you started to feel that within the episode, and as the episode goes on, and then we move on into the 19th birthday, when they get to go on the patrol, and we see how Ellie is getting ready to ask him the age-old question: what happened in Salt Lake City? What happened with the Fireflies? She was starting to question everything going on, and then seeing how that then leads on to the Eugene incident, and seeing what happened with Eugene now. And I already kind of figured that was where it was going to go when we learned about Eugene and learning about the character from the first episode with the therapist being his wife. Forgetting her name right now, but seeing that scene play out, and knowing that it was either Eugene found out something about Ellie, or he got bit and Joel had to kill him. And that's exactly what happens. Eugene gets bit, and the way that the scene plays out is very different than what the game was. Now in the game, we see how Ellie and Joel go, but Ellie in fact goes back to the hospital, sees everything, and then begins to ask Joel the questions, and that's when the relationship breaks apart. In the show, we see how Ellie and Joel go and save a party that was being attacked by infected, and in that scene we see Eugene is one of the last members that is living, but he's bit and he's infected now. And so in that scene, we see how Eugene wants to at least go give his final goodbyes to his wife and say, goodbye to her and tell her how much he loves her, whatever. And then Ellie says, hey, we have time. We can give him that at least. Let's give him that little bit of time and respect. And in that, Joel promises, he makes the promise that, hey, I won't do anything to her. In fact, Joel's more resistant to it and says, hey, I don't think we should do this. We should just end it here. Can't do that. We got to protect. Again, protective instinct. And then Ellie is a little bit more extremely and says, let's just give him the time. He has time. Let's go give it to him. And so he lies to her, tells her, I'm going to promise you that we're doing, and then he leads Eugene on, brings him to the water and says, hey, you can always see the one that you love in your eyes. And that's, again, going back to his psyche and saying, like, he's going to always see Sarah in his eyes, despite the fact that she died in his arms. He can always see her and always see in that moment. So we see how that plays out. He shoots her, kills her, and then that's where we see the reality set in for Ellie. Like, this man that I once loved and I thought that I knew, but the reservations I had about him were always right in the end. And knowing that he lied to me, he swore that everything that was told to me when it was at the end of season 1, that he saved him and that there was no cure and that there was nothing to be done, that her life would have been meaningless and her purpose would have been meaningless. It goes and plays out. And we see that reality set in. And so when they go back to Jackson and they go back to tell the wife that, hey, Eugene didn't make it, Joel's lying to her saying that he killed himself and that, it was going to be his choice to die and that he loved her and whatever. Ellie saying that, no, that's not the way it does. It was, again, going back and firing back at Joel, saying, like, no, this is not it. You're lying. Just like you lied to me. The pain that she was feeling, she wanted to put that pain back on him. And then you could see the reality of the breakdown, and we see how the relationship then breaks apart. And then we go further on into the scene that happened at the end of season 1, not at the end of the game and at the end of the episode of this season, where Ellie goes back to the conversation and as a player of the game, we see that whole thing that we just saw at the end of this episode happens at the end of the video game. It happens at the very, very end. And so to go and do this now, I think that was a really, really good choice, because that was my whole problem with the second game. The pacing and the kind of scene jumping didn't make a lot of sense. So seeing it here and playing out here at the end of the season, being the second to last episode, seeing how they jump back to seeing the conversation that happened between Ellie and Joel, it adds that levity. It adds that contexture to the whole entire process of what happened after, the party, and the emotion in that scene. I can't even express it enough. Pedro and Bella just acted their butt off in this scene. They really went in and they understood the character, they understood the nature, and just the emotion that, again, Pedro brings into the scene, the writing that they were able to do with his character. And then as well as, Bella Ramsey, even though people have their problems with her, I think that she really handled herself here as best as possible. And I think that she really shows that, hey, I'm just as much as Ellie as anyone wants to say I'm not. And I think that seeing that dynamic between them two and seeing how they kept it almost scene by scene, shot by shot from the game, it just adds that level of emotion. And it really it gave me emotion, and it added this, it brought me back to when I played and saw that scene play out when I played the game all those years ago. It just adds a level of emotion, and it really gives you the psyche of Ellie now jumping back to the present, where she's just killed Nora, and now this sacrificial love that he had, she's sacrificing her own morals, her own values and everything, because she's coming from a place of loss and love. She saw the man and the father she never had, this fatherly figure that she had in her life, die in front of her eyes. And so this is how she's processing her grief. It's by going out, getting the revenge, and getting back at the people that, were going out and fighting, going out to kill Joel, and just seeing how that plays out to then jump back to the present of now jumping back into Ellie's shoes. It just adds now the tension of, okay, where do we take this now going into the final episode, which I'm shocked that it's already the season finale. I thought it would be longer. I thought we had at least 2 more episodes, but I guess, episode 7's it. And I'm really excited to see how this plays out. I'm a little nervous. I'm not gonna lie. I'm a little nervous to see how they plays out, because I already saw the trailer, and seeing how that is going to play out, I'm a little nervous at how they're going to handle the material. I don't know if they're going to be able to do enough. I don't know if we're going to jump back with Abby at some point, and we're going to jump back with some extra characters are coming. I don't want to spoil that, but again, I'm a little nervous, but I am still excited to see what we're going to do here, because I know what's coming and I know what's going to happen here. And so with that being said, I think that this is a good spot to say that I thought this episode was really good. To me, it's my favorite episode so far. And this comes from a place of, like I said, coming from the source material and seeing what they were able to do with the media that they are for television. I think that they really hit it with a home run here. This is my favorite of the bunch. Despite the fact of having not that much of action and not that much of infected, but again, those little moments of character development and the psyche of each character really adds that level of emotion back to me as a player of the game and someone who's consuming it with people that I care about as well, with my family that have never played the game and never seen it. So getting able to see that with them and seeing their reactions as a whole, it really adds a level of, excitement and enjoyment for the whole entire season as a whole. So I'm happy with it, and I'm really excited to see how this season ends off. But with that being said, I like I said, leave a like, comment, let me know how you felt about this episode. It's always good to see the comments on this, and let me know if you played the game and if you're nervous or not, and seeing what your expectations are for season 3, because we already know they're coming back with it. So like I said, thank you guys so much for watching. I appreciate it. We'll be back again hopefully later this week with another video going back to the MCU, maybe a little talk on some other stuff and news that came out last week with the MCU stuff and DC stuff. So with that being said, thank you guys again, and like always, Jesus loves you and God made you special, and he loves you very much. We'll catch you on the next video.